time to mow. All right, in all seriousness, so you're a recent paraplegic or a spouse or a friend of one, and you've got a lawn and you're wondering if or how you can get back into mowing again. Well, I had that same question and I spent a lot of hours on YouTube, so hopefully this summary can save you a bit of time. So we're going to cover three main areas: why it is that you want to mow, the types of mowers and their advantages and disadvantages, and then just some general tips and tricks to keep in mind. And I guess I'll show you real quick how I get on and off my mower. You can go to any of those sections directly by clicking on the timestamps below in the description. And there you will also find some links to other videos that I reference. So let's get started. First, you have to ask yourself why. Why do you want to mow again? Is this something you love doing? Is it something that relaxes you? Is it something about that smell of fresh cut grass? Then you're going to find a way to do it, no doubt. But are you somebody that you're not that interested, or maybe you never liked it, but there's nobody else around to help you do it, so you just have to do it? Well, the size of your lawn, how flat or even the ground is, the type of mower you already might have, those are all factors that are going to go into deciding, do you want to learn, do you want to adapt your mower, or is it just time to get someone else to do it for you? Or do you want to mow because you want to see how much independence you can gain? Is the process of learning and pushing your boundaries just as important as it is the act of cutting the grass itself? That was me. Quick story time. It was March 2020, 3 to 4 months after leaving rehab hospital, and it was my first spring as a paraplegic. And that first year, every new season was a mixed bag of emotions because I was constantly being confronted with what I couldn't do, or I could do it with a lot of extra time or energy. And so I was itching to get out in my new backyard, and I quickly confirmed that my manual chair and my power chair were not well suited for the yard. And I was depressed because I couldn't do basic stuff. I couldn't help spread new soil for grass, or I couldn't get close enough to trees to prune branches. And so I was really trying to figure out, what am I gonna do out in my yard, out in the great outdoors? And then the pandemic hits. To make things worse, my in-home therapies had to stop, my driver's rehab came to a halt, and the grass was getting greener and starting to grow, and I realized our push mower wasn't gonna cut it in this new backyard. And that's when I started looking up videos and saw that paraplegics were able to mow with some tweaks to their mowers or to a different kind of mower. And so that's when I realized, oh, maybe I could still contribute to the yard in some way. It gave me a bit of hope. And and then on top of that, the first federal stimulus check came through, and all of a sudden I realized I might just be getting myself a new mower. Okay, so you've decided you want to mow again. Now it's time to see if you can use your existing mower or whether you might want to buy a different kind. Here are some pros and cons of different kinds of mowers. The classic push mower. The obvious advantages are you don't have to transfer to a different seat, and you're going to get a really good workout from it. Now these are best suited for those of you that have a relatively small lawn to mow, that it's fairly even ground, and that you have the ability to pick dry days to mow, because wet grass is not going to be your friend. Craig and Claire from Paralife did a really good video experimenting with their push mower, and they highlighted some of the challenges of that as well. For example, a self-propelled mower sounds like a great idea, except that they're rear-wheel drive usually, and if you're kind of pulling yourself a little bit behind it, you're going to end up doing a lot of wheelies. A smart drive behind your wheelchair is also an option, except that it doesn't really work well on grass, and then it gets a bit tedious to have to manually turn it off when you come to the end of a lane, turn around with your wheelchair, start the smart drive up again, all the while trying to keep your balance if you have a high-level injury. So, talking about riding mowers, the big obvious benefit is that you're not limited to the capabilities of your own wheelchair. Once you do the effort of transferring over, then it's made to go on uneven terrain, on slightly wet terrain, plus it just gets the job done faster and you're more comfortable. The two main challenges I see are the seat transfer and the foot pedals. Now, from the videos that I saw, being able to transfer onto this kind of seat seemed pretty advanced to me, given my skill level at the time, and I wasn't terribly comfortable with that idea. I mean, I'm sure with practice it gets easier. You also have to keep in mind that on either side of the seat, there's often a bunch of handles that control different functions of the mower, and you could get your pants caught on the way over to the seat. Then there's the foot pedals. If you're like Brian from Paralyzed Living, you may have an older mower that has what's called hydrostatic transmission, and sometimes that can be done by hand, and therefore you don't need foot controls. But for most other riding mowers, you're going to have 1, 2, or sometimes even 3 foot pedals to contend with. Doug from Wheelchair Living, he's got a great video showing how he went about customizing some hand controls for his foot pedals. But in my case, I'm not a handyman, so I would probably need a friend to help me with that. And sometimes those hand controls, it's just one more thing to think about as part of the transfer over to the seat. Let's turn over to zero-turn mowers. This is the kind of mower that I saw the most when searching for paraplegic mowing videos. And when it was time to upgrade from my push mower, it was between riding mowers and these type of mowers. And I went with this one for 2 reasons. It seemed like an easier transfer to get on it, and it also seemed to provide more stability. The 2-step process of getting onto the seat seemed like an easier transfer for a beginner like me. The first part is more of like a side transfer. And then the second part kind of mimics the action of going from floor to wheelchair. And it seems more stable to me. All the controls are within hand's reach, and you can be in a slightly more reclined position, which is good for a high-level injury like mine. Since it doesn't need any modifications or other adaptive equipment, it just feels more like a plug-and-play solution. So the obvious con is that it's the most expensive mower type, and it's going to require more storage space in your garage or your shed. Also, another thing to keep in mind is on larger mowing decks, the height adjustment is sometimes a foot pedal as well. But if you only change that once or twice during the season, it's no problem. Well, the rain has started. Let's see how long this lasts. Some tips to consider. If you're considering buying a mower, make sure to go there, try it out, transfer, get hands-on with it. If you're going to get a zero-turn like this, and maybe even with a riding mower, you have to think about where the wheelchair is after you get on it. For example, in my case, if I go in the front here and I transfer onto the seat, I can't then move forward. I have to go backwards and sideways. And so what I do is I put it at the end of my garage. There's no obstacles behind me, no kids' bikes or anything like that, and I have a clear path. So you got to plan a little bit accordingly wherever you're storing it. Also, make sure that you have plenty of gas. Don't be like me, where a couple of times I've run out because I didn't do so, and then I'm stuck out in the middle of the lawn, and I've got to get a hold of somebody and help me fill it up so I can continue. It's a good idea to carry a whistle as a backup for getting a hold of somebody. Sometimes the cell phone can be dead, or the person you're trying to reach doesn't have their cell phone handy. And if you're stranded for any reason, you need to be able to get a hold of someone. Luckily, I live in suburbia, and so neighbors are not too far away, but still, it's a good backup to have. Also, I have found that a strap for the legs can be really helpful. I basically tie this around my legs because as I'm driving this thing, my knees knock and they get in the way of the handles. And so if I do the strap, it keeps my legs in. Now, if I do the strap too tight, then my legs kind of flip-flop to one side or the other. I ideally want them just wide enough so that they stay in place without being too far open and therefore getting in the way of the handles. And like with any new activity, make sure that you check right after for any of those lovely pressure sores and then adjust accordingly. What I can say from all this video watching is that you, us, the paraplegic community, are one creative bunch. I mean, where there's a will, there's a way. I'm inspired, I really am. And if you have a recent injury, and in your circumstances, mowing would give you more independence and would give you some joy, I hope you'll make it happen. If you have access to a physical or occupational therapist, ask them for help. In my case, ironically, now my son has fallen in love with using the zero-turn mower. So, help me out. What did I miss on mowing as a paraplegic? What additional tips would you have for others or corrections that are needed? Leave them in the comments below. And remember, please, to be kind and constructive. And if there was any part of this video that was helpful to you, I would appreciate a like on it and subscribe if you want more content like this. Thanks. Adios, amigo.